So this morning we have Andy Geddes from the Cinnamon Tree Bakery. Very delighted and pleased that Andy's able to join us this morning. Cinnamon Tree Bakery has been trading at the famous Borough Market since 2008. It was founded by life and business partners, actually, Andy Geddes and Anita. And their range has grown to include rich buttery oat cakes, seeded flatbreads, shortbread owls, I'm feeling hungry now, gingerbread men, as well as their famous cinnamon biscuits. They're all handmade and baked in Camberwell, and they've established a reputation for extremely tasty, beautifully decorated biscuits and bars. They're selling in South London and online as well. They've recently launched a new venture, baking savoury crackers as a cracker kitchen. In his own words, Andy, thank you, he spent time after studying art at university messing around in bands and on football pitches, waiting for the post office and in high-tech manufacturing jobs. So after moving to London in 2006, that's when the Cinnamon Tree Bakery was born. Welcome to the webinar, Andy.
All right, thanks. Yeah, pleasure.
Tell me a bit more about what you were doing before you founded the Cinnamon Tree Bakery. Have you always wanted to start your own food business?
No, not at all, really. In fact, starting a business was not something that would have been on my radar at all. I studied art at university, very open-ended, creative kind of course. Do what you want, just explore the possibilities of different mediums, materials. Got to know how to use a camera, computer, sculpture, all kinds of things, really. I left university. I was still doing bits and pieces of art for galleries in Manchester and started working at the post office.
Okay.
Had quite a good fun time there. Very, very interesting culture. Met lots of interesting people. Trade union stuff. Yeah, played a lot of football.
Very good.
And then I came down to London around 2006. I'd known Anita for a long time, but obviously, we were kind of good friends, and then we were together shortly after that. And I started helping her with what was her first business at Borough Market, which was kind of a retail business selling Middle Eastern sweets, baklava sweets, and mamul and dates and that type of stuff. Very nice quality, baked in London in Park Royal by a company called Sweetland, who were quite an early inspiration for us. They supplied a lot of top restaurants. They supplied Harrods, and then they supplied us. They were lovely guys. Used to drive round to our place, drop off the sweets into the back of our car, and we would drive them up to Borough and set up a quite traditional looking stall at Borough, big piles of baklava, and it kind of did pretty well, And then when I guess the opportunity to have our own stall came up, we went for that, and we actually almost immediately stopped doing the baklava stall, just because the bakery was so much more creative and open-ended and offered a lot more possibilities to be creative and express ourselves. So we went fully into it, and we left the other stall. It was consigned to history quite rapidly.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really a light bulb moment as such. It was a...
No, not at all. It was very much just, living life as it comes, having a good time. And then, I think there was something a bit fated about it, maybe. And there was a bit in family. My mum worked as a dessert chef and a baker. In a similar kind of way, it's almost the kind of job that is coming back now, in the sense that it was kind of a side hustle for her.
Right.
She actually had a job in the local library in a town called Dalry in Ayrshire, and she would bake bread and take it into the library and sell the bread kind of under the counter while working in the library.
Oh wow.
And then she would also bake desserts for a couple of local restaurants and sell the desserts to the restaurants and cafes and things. So so it was kind of in the family, and she was the first person who I called when I needed advice, because she'd never done anything large scale, but she was a very, very good source of information for me in the early times of the bakery, when I actually knew nothing, but very close to nothing about actually like how to either run a business or kind of bake anything beyond a muffin and a sponge cake. You know,
Yes,
she was
quite a switch from just buying goods to actually making them yourself.
yeah, it was. I mean, I did, as I said before, as well as the working for Royal Mail, I had done a few years working in manufacturing. So the side of the business that I was strong on was like buying and ordering ingredients and setting up a sort of generic manufacturing space, and having a good workflow and being efficient and not losing things, you know, and keeping good track of where everything was at. So those kind of skills, I think, from manufacturing are very transferable into food production, definitely. And good organization, you know, keep on top of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And where did you start making your products?
Originally, we were very lucky to get a food unit which was already pretty much ready to go, which was in a sort of starter business units place in Camberwell called Biscuit. They run a few centres around South London, which are kind of flexible hire, you know, month by month type contract places. We got in a place straight away. So we were never in that situation. We were where we were baking from home, which like I would like, if it's what you have to do, it's what you have to do. And I would never say to anyone, don't do it, even though like I know as soon as you are doing it, you probably either need to upgrade your home kitchen quite quickly or get out. So it's a good way to start. But we were very fortunate to find a unit straight away. Somebody was vacating, we got in, the whole place was set up. We just started with, I think, a second-hand small Hobart 20-quart Hobart mixer, and a couple of kind of sort of almost domestic size ovens that you've just, you know, they just plugged into a 13-amp socket and they cost a huge amount of money to run.
Right.
And we, you know, and we actually they had such bad air circulation that every time you baked something, you did have to open the door and turn it around back to front halfway through every single bake that we did. So we had a lot of our time was spent opening and closing oven doors and turning trays around. And
oh gosh,
you do what you have to do, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So what were the first steps in developing your initial range, your first products? What were they?
Oh, okay. Well, we actually started with some recipes that we had in mind. Some quite traditional biscuits, which we originally were kind of selling in packs. We were dividing them down into like ginger snap size sort of biscuits and bagging them and selling packs. So we actually tried selling them loose the way we did the baklava, but that didn't work. So we quite quickly put them in packs. The idea at first was going to be a biscuit pick and mix type thing. But on a kind of damp day, you couldn't sell the biscuits fast enough, and we had to put them in packs. And then we kind of quite quickly moved from putting them in packs, which was a lot of effort, to making more chunky hand-sized cookies that we could sell along the same lines of the price of the brownies, so we could still stick with a pick and mix idea. We always kept everything the same price on the store because I like the simplicity of, oh, everything's £1, you know, which I think originally it actually was, everything was £1. Now everything's like £3.50, you know, prices have gone up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So you were
yeah, but
packing product by hand, were you?
yeah, we were doing everything by hand originally. I mean, actually, like the way that we've moved the kitchen on, it felt at first like we could have been in the sort of 18th century, really. And then, the first time we got a pastry roller, um, well, I mean, when we started with the gingerbread men, we were literally just rolling them out with a rolling pin and cutting them
Right.
out.
Right.
And then, the first pastry roller we got didn't plug into the wall. It was a big handle. You just wind the hand with one hand while you were shoving the dough through with the other. I mean, when we got that, it literally felt like a revolution. We were like, "Woo, this is amazing!" And at the time, like, I don't know whether I didn't know about electric pastry rollers or we couldn't afford one. We didn't get one anyway. We didn't get one for ages. We bought this one, you know, for about £50 or something, it was like completely ruined, and it took an awful lot of like rust removal and respraying and stuff to get it going. But like that's one thing that I did think was important for me to mention during this talk was
Hmm.
like I don't like to see resources go to waste. And one of those things that I see kind of go into landfill all the time is these beautiful old machines, which are still like perfectly serviceable machines. Um, I've noticed a trend recently, actually, that the prices on some of these things are going up, but I still think it's possible to be imaginative and pick something up like very cheap and get a huge amount of use out of these type of
I mean,
things.
food production equipment. Yeah, food production equipment. I often advise people to have a look at secondhand because often it's made of stainless steel, and the fundamental body of a lot of this equipment goes on for a very long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, they they used to be made to such a high standard as well that like these machines like the pastry rollers I use, I've always used Hunts, which are a company from Bolton, but the machine they're famous for is their pie maker, which is
Hmm.
called the Little Champion or the Champion if you go for the bigger model. And it's like one of those badge making machines. You get a big handle that you pull down, but the whole thing's made from cast metal, and it will never ever wear out. You could use it for 1,000 years, and it would still be going. Yeah, it was incredible. You know, when you think about the amount of labor that is going to be saved by a machine like that, it's phenomenal. I think if you were like starting a pie business or something of that nature, like
Mm.
you could go right back and pick up one of these old machines, and they're incredible, and they're actually like so much more soulful to use than some
Yeah.
of the modern machines, which like they do a good job. But I guess like the purpose of every machine is to de-skill the job so you can get anyone to do the job. And
Yeah.
so as a consequence, they're less soulful to use because you don't have that connection really with the machine that you do with the older machines. So like the guys that work at the bakery are still like very proud of their skill on the pastry roller and stuff. Whereas like the more modern ones, you just type into a touchscreen how many millimeters thick you want your dough to be, and it just goes and it's done. I mean, obviously, like that's fantastic,
Yes.
but somebody with the skill on the machine, they can get to that level of skill and then just be incredibly proud that they're a skilled worker. And you
And
know, that
yeah.
like level of pride in what you're doing,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, it begins to come through in every aspect of your work, and you're not just like a generic worker, you become more of a baker and you understand the processes and you're prodding the dough and making sure the dough is spot on. And in the end, that comes through to everything of like when you're monitoring the ingredients that you're using and you pick up if something's the least bit wrong, pick it
Yes.
up, and you're not relying just on machinery to do the things. So it's nice. I think we find a level now that we like to work at. We do like a pastry roller to have a motor in it, but but like I don't think we need to go much further than that because the quantities that we're producing and the level of skill that we have to work with in the bakery, we like how it is now.
A comment though that it's not all about how many million can you kick out every hour through use of automation. There's something different as well.
I think it's especially important when you begin to have people working for you, and the difference between trying to work with and manage somebody that has pride in themselves and their trade and what they're doing,
Yes.
and just shoving someone on a machine and just saying, oh, you just like pretty much stand by this machine and feed something in.
Yeah.
You know, there's a big difference. And like, yeah, we're kind of happy with where we've got things to, and we're happy with our team, and that, you know, just getting the right setup, the level of technology that you decide to work at, or it's not even that you decide, you know, because you work your way up, I suppose. Most people,
Yeah.
unless you're starting with investment and you're like, right, we're going to go out and lease a load of equipment and stuff. If you're just starting and you're shopping on eBay or whatever, the good thing with like things like the Hunts machines is there's still, because they're going to last forever, you can still get parts. There's a new company recently just set up who make the actual belts, the belts that the dough runs on. They wear out, especially if you're using pastry cutters. You roll the dough and then you're cutting. Eventually, you cut through the belt and the belt's knackered. But you just go, no, you can just go and buy another one, a couple of £100, boom, last you a few more years.
Nice.
And you just keep going, you know. So it's like keeping the car going, keeping it on the road. If you've got a classic car, why would you just go and scrap it, you know?
What's your approach been to adding new products as you've gone along? I mean, I'm not sure what you knew about your market and your potential customers and so on.
Yeah, it's pretty. I find it a really difficult process. What I'm proud of is not always what I'll take up to the market and will sell. So you have to balance that idea that, you know, it's nice to be creative and express yourself with, you want to put on a good display of bakery that is going to sell loads.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think things like the kind of classic, you know, we've been doing chocolate brownies since day one, but there's been several iterations of brownie, and sometimes we've innovated things and we've changed our process, and other times we've been responding to what's happening in the market and what people, I guess, you know, what people like see in a food magazine, or they see other bakeries doing, and innovation that comes through. You do have to go with it, otherwise your stuff kind of starts to lag behind.
Yes.
So, I mean, the sort of classic example, I suppose, is even though we use the same tray size, we used to put about 2 kilos of brownie mix in the tray, and now we put 3 kilos in the tray. So the brownie is like a good couple of inches plus deep now. Wow. Because I mean, a lot of that is a kind of social media type. People hold it up to the camera and it's like, whoa, look at the size of that, you know, which is like, there's something a little bit grotesque about it. But at the same time, if you don't do it, you're kind of out of the picture, really, when it comes to selling brownies. And so there is a little bit of everything gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like icing, right? That's the thing that I don't like doing. I don't like food coloring. I don't like icing things. I like a sort of a thing that looks like the thing that it is, in a way. You know, coloring, I'm definitely, people do what they're going to do. And like, I know a couple of people who do like these brilliant colored cakes, unicorn cakes and stuff, and they look amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I'm happy to not do it and just be more natural ingredients, natural look. But obviously, like, I do like to incorporate designs into things. So one thing that we did innovate was a kind of embossing technique where we would have a biscuit rolled out. We would emboss a design just purely with a stamp.
Mm-hmm.
There's various ways you can get stamps made now, laser cut and engraved, and the type of stamps that you use for printing and this type of things. Wooden stamps you can get carved, this sort of stuff. And we would emboss the stamp, and then we'd get like a kind of meringue type mixture, and we would like squeegee it into what we had stamped and then bake the whole thing together. So when it came out, the design would be baked into the top of the biscuit. And that's kind of lovely. And we do a lot of our kind of custom designs. We do like that. And you can either use this meringue or you can use like a cocoa based Gioconde sort of paste to put a dark design on a light biscuit, and the meringue would put a light design on a dark biscuit. And that was our way around the icing problem, that I don't like icing, and I
Fair enough.
I find a way around it, and it looks completely different. It looks completely different. I think it came out being like very uniquely us. It was recognizable. The cinnamon elephants were the first biscuit that we used and we used a copy of an Indian textile stamp, which would have been to put a sort of wax resist Indian print onto a fabric, and we had that copied, and then we were using that to make the elephants, and that got a good reception. But that was always one which people would see it on the stall and they go, "Oh, look at that! That looks so beautiful," and then buy a chocolate brownie. So it was almost a marketing. It became. I thought they tasted lovely, but people would always be drawn to the store. Doesn't that look great? And then they go and they buy what they are familiar with, and that would be like a gingerbread or a brownie. So sometimes that's how it goes.
No, but that sounds amazing. I mean, combining your creativity with the food is fantastic. Actually, I'm going to throw in. I've had a question from Krishma. Thank you. Just asking. Who's very complimentary about your inspiring approach to food. She was asking about how you make decisions on pricing for your products.
Okay. Well, that's you're better to ask someone who's got a bit of a more worked out approach to pricing than myself and Anita, because when we started, we kind of used the basic, like, can we pay everyone and buy the ingredients and still have enough to live on at the end of the month?
Okay.
And like, as long as it's working, we never really looked too deeply into having a structured way of working out our pricing. We're kind of lucky that like we're not relying on getting all our customers under our own steam, because we've been on a few good markets. We've always been at Borough. Until recently, we've been on a couple of Hackney markets and things, and like the customers will come, and we sell a fair bit of stuff. And yeah, as long as there's enough money coming in to cover everything, and we're like very lucky that there more or less always has been, and we've been able to just move on with doing the kinds of things we want to do, and eventually saving up to do other things, then it's been fine. But I think like if your finances were a bit more under pressure, I'm probably not the person to ask about that, because my kind of strategy has not really had a chance to be put under any serious stress.
Well, that's good. And so you're finance wise, then you've always self-funded.
Always, yeah. I mean, it's something I'm actually looking at now. That now we're moving on to the cracker business, which like is a completely different mindset, because we are actually kind of taking on a different sort of a challenge and saying, okay, let's treat this less like a trade that we're in and more like a business where we do want to think about scaling by multiples of 10, or when we sell 10 times as many crackers next year as we sold this year. And obviously you can't just do that through organic growth and spending your own money. So it has entered the picture that like the possibility that we might be looking for an investor has come up. But it's not something we've done as yet. We've always spent our own money and just carried on. Yeah.
And that's good to hear. I mean, people have very different approaches to scaling.
I know, yeah.
Well, they can be massive. It does vary a lot, and it has to suit you.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to it, I suppose, but one for us is like machinery wise, I think looking at making the crackers, if we did want to keep the production, you know, within our own production, there's maybe only one machine on the market that looks like it might do the job, and it costs a lot more money than I'm ever going to be able to raise. And so, like, if we did want to go forward with putting together a production facility, you know, we'd need more cash than I'm ever going to have. So that then opens the door, doesn't it, to like, well,
Yes.
if you do want to carry out that plan, maybe you need to get out there and start pitching for some money. And I never feel entirely comfortable doing that because that's so far out of my comfort zone that you know, like I can kind of just thinking about it, it's like nerves get jangling, you know.
Yeah.
I like to be in control. It's always like just been being an eater.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, it's that's a hard one as you scale up.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can really feel it. But that's the thing. It's like, I think we could probably just tick along and do the cinnamon tree stuff and just sort of get through our working lives quite happily. But we've decided to take on another challenge and try and do something different and see how it feels and how far we get with it. You know.
Well, that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm very aware it's we've got a few minutes to go. If anyone's got any questions for Andy, please you can put them in the chat or you can unmute. I've probably got thousands more questions, so I shall hand over.
Hi Mel, it's James. How you doing?
Hi James.
Hi Andy, you all right?
I'm good, mate. How's it going?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I know Mel. We do a bit of work together, but I work with startups and also with larger companies. But interesting. What would be the advice you'd give a startup? Because working with startups, they've got very different ambitions or investment. And what would be your kind of 3 big nuggets you would say to somebody starting out from scratch?
Right. Okay. I mean, I think my first one would really be have an idea what you want out of it. When we started Cinnamon Tree, when we got to the point where I could see that it was going to be a viable long-term job for me and Anita to do, I was very content with that. Whereas I think other people that I know, when they've got to that point, have been very frustrated that that's as far as it was going to go.
Yeah.
So I think like having an idea like what you would be happy with at the outset, especially in a trade like bakery where because I'm the producer and I guess like I've kind of given a little taste of it, but like a good day working on a pastry roller and making 1,000 gingerbread in a day, that's a good day for me, you know. Whereas I think there are other people that even if they started out like that, like very early on in the mission, they'd want to get someone else. They'd either want to outsource the production or get someone else doing the manual work. I've always been a manual worker. I love it. I love using my hands, you know.
It's a very interesting one because I work with a company that everything is outsourced and another company which everything is made in-house. And interesting, the one who makes in-house are a lot more passionate, more interested in their brands, a lot more feeling for it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we often get people that get to the point where they'll be making 1,000 a day and then like, right, we need help scaling up now.
Yeah, or they're fed up with it, or they want to take it further. So yeah. Like, I mean, when I got to the point where we were making those kind of quantities, I was just thinking, oh, this is great because I'm earning decent money now, and this is a good job, you know.
Yeah.
I think, the second one of those would be like, let your brand really be something that is honestly representing the type of person you are and gives a feel of integrity and isn't too overly engineered to a particular market or anything like that, but let it be again like an expression something genuine about yourself or about your community that you're coming from and representing. I kind of did all our graphic design and everything. I mean, I kind of had the skill set to do it, but I think even if I didn't, I would have tried to do it anyway, because that's the type of business it was at the beginning. But I think you got to just try and have fun. When you'd have to do everything yourself, try and have fun doing those things. And, you know, if there are things that are really not fun, as soon as you can get someone else to do them, get someone else to do them. You know, I mean, that is a tip for me. I was just saying before the Zoom started that, like, I was briefly sucked into kind of regularly participating in Instagram and social media. And then after a bit, I kind of dropped that. And now we've got the Cracker thing, which we are kind of trying to expand and be a lot more open and expansive and grow well beyond the sort of Borough market base. One of the first things we've done is get someone else to do it. And when I see what they're coming out with, they've been so good. I'm just really happy to see it coming out. But I didn't enjoy the process. So if you don't enjoy the process, don't do the thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of two, isn't it? Two is enough.
Two is enough. Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, James.
All right, cool.
All right, probably just take one last question that Rebecca's put in the chat. She's asking, do you source organic suppliers at all? Is it a problem? Is it a problem that being close to London for that?
It's not. We use Suma for organic rye flour and Dove's Farm and this kind of thing. For bulk ingredients like flour, you can just get, especially if you've got room. See, that's the thing. Like, the thing about being in London is having the space. Like, we're quite lucky we've moved unit now into an ex-pub, and we have quite a bit of space, so it's no problem for us to order a pallet of flour and bring in a pallet, in which case, you know, most of the flour that's milled you can get hands on a pallet. It is sometimes problematic for kind of smaller ingredients, but the thing that makes it more problematic is the price, and then achieving that price at the market, which is why as a bakery we're not an organic bakery. I think you have to balance quality of ingredients with affordability for consumers, and for us, in the end, we decided not to be organic.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate it. We've just put the contact for Cinnamon Tree Bakery in the chat if anyone wants to contact directly, and we'll be.
That's fine. Was that the good 60?
Yes.
Okay. That's the Borough Market online. So there's a lot of fantastic producers you can buy through Good 60 who are well worth supporting there at Borough.
So just remains to say thank you very much, Andy. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been nice. I hope there was maybe one or two useful little somethings in there for someone. Hope so.
Yeah, several very positive comments about it. Yeah, you have a very refreshing approach, to quote Rebecca. So thank you very much, and have a great weekend, everyone. All right, yeah, thank you, everybody.
If you've got a question about your product development, you can always contact us via the website www.froghop.co.uk. You can book a free of charge introductory call at www.froghop.co.uk/meet. You'll find a wealth of free resources for starting, developing and scaling your food or drink product and business at www.froghop.co.uk/resources.